So this is the evolution of an intentionally designed life. In other words, how to use your vision. And I'm going to run through this pretty quickly. Don't get overwhelmed by my chicken scratch, but this is what you're going to know in the next 8 minutes. Okay? And what I want you to think about, don't take pictures, don't try to memorize it. What I'd encourage you guys to do as I talk over the next several minutes is spend as much of your energy feeling into what I'm saying as you do thinking about what I'm saying. Don't reject thinking and just feel. Do both, okay? See if you can approach it in that way. Essentially, these are 8 steps, and we're going to go through them one at a time very quickly. So default mode, this is the pre-vision existence. This is before you ever heard the word vision. And even if you don't know what a vision is, life still goes on. If you don't have a plan, you'll be the subject of somebody else's plan, right? If you don't create the program, well, I don't like the idea of being programmed. Well, listen, we're all programmed. You're either running your own program or somebody else's. In default mode, we're running somebody else's program. Creating the vision is the area I've focused on so much in the past because it's like the act of creating the vision, which I'm not taking lightly, it's not easy, it moves the needle really far. My good buddy Terry Royce talks about that's the engine overhaul, right? And these first couple steps are the engine overhaul where you take out the little crappy 4-cylinder, and Stephen will tell me that I screw this analogy up, but you put in the 8-cylinder diesel with 1,100 pounds of torque, and all of a sudden it's a whole new vehicle. You can make huge improvements in your life just by creating the vision, right? As soon as you create the vision, you have this holistic awareness that, I'm going to age myself a little bit, but G.I. Joe, right? Knowing is half the... I'm not the oldest one, good. Knowing is half the battle. As soon as we know what we want, you guys have also heard me say 1 is halfway to 10. Less of you know that, but some of you. It's the same thing, right? As soon as we have the vision, you'll notice that all these arrows have turned around, and I should back up, and I apologize that I missed this. Each of these arrows just represent an aspect of our life. So faith, family, friends, hobbies, work, health, anything that's going to be in your vision, these are the arrows. And so in the default mode, as I talked about, some things are going backwards, some are going forward, some are going really well, but at the peril of the other areas that we're neglecting. As soon as we build this vision, what I notice tends to happen is all the arrows start to at least go in the right direction, right? Which is obviously a very good thing. The next phase, you may find that you can kind of point to one of these phases and go, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. That's awesome because it tells you what's next, and you can kind of, instead of aiming for like the end, you can aim for the next phase to move incrementally through these steps, right? Temporally prioritized intention. 2 years ago, I was really interested in sounding smart, and so I attached 3 really big words to this saying, just do things that spend the most time doing the things that are most important, right? And as we do that, obviously our life starts to balance and we start to make progress. Active progression is basically more of the same, right? And this is where one of the sticking points can occur, and I want to share with all of you, is when Terry, my buddy, talks about the engine overhaul, one of the things he also talks about is later on, well, the engine overhaul is like going from a 3 to an 8 on a 10 scale, right? We can make massive improvements. It's going from a couch to a 5K. When you first start running, you can shave minutes off your mile time very quickly. When you've been running for a decade, you're running for 100 hours a week to shave seconds off a mile time, right? And so the progress is slower, and that can be discouraging and demoralizing to us. And so I share that not to discourage or demoralize any of you, but to allow you to have the awareness, to brace for it, and be prepared to overcome that, if it makes sense. This slide's a little bit of a curveball because what it shows is what I call equilibrium or balanced bandwidth, and all the arrows are now the same size. Now, I strayed a little bit from my analogy here. I mean, you got to give me a break because I was running when all of this came to me. But it's not that you spend the same amount of time on your family and your faith and your business and your health. It's that you're spending the right amount of time based on what you deem to be most appropriate on each of those things. And so now you're in a position where every day or week or whatever increment of time we're talking about, you're spending the amount of time that produces the greatest satisfaction and fulfillment in your life on that particular aspect. Everybody tracking with me? I know I'm rolling through fast, but the second half is, I want to save time for that. These next couple phases, early stacking and advanced stacking, are just where we start to entertain and play with this idea that we don't have to neglect one area necessarily to improve in another area, right? We start to go, hey, instead of like just going on a storage rebellion trip, maybe I go on a storage rebellion trip and have a lot of fun playing pickleball or shooting people with paintballs, right? That's vision stacking. I love traveling, I love adventure, I love having impact, and I love the work that I do to provide for my family. That's advanced stacking. I've got like 3 or 4 vision elements right here. And I'll probably do some yoga in the morning, even if none of y'all come with me. We don't have anything planned, but I'm gonna do it. So we're combining the elements. Everybody still tracking with me? Yes? Cool. Here's where it gets really hippie. I'm gonna lose some of you. But that's okay, because I think what I just shared and the lessons I'm gonna share in a minute, even if what I'm about to say is not for you, that's okay. I'm good with that. You can still apply everything that comes after this to the first 7 phases, which I think everybody's on board with. Yeah, I want my life to get better, right? So this is alignment, full alignment. This is where all of the arrows you see are now sharing one arrowhead. And so the idea here is that we're eliminating trade-off. And so the question becomes, is it even possible to eliminate trade-off? And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know. But here's what I do know. I know that it's only possible if I believe that it might be, right? As soon as I say it's not possible, game over. And that's not a world I want to live in. And so I choose to believe that eliminating trade-off is possible. And I transition away from compromise toward this collaborative synergy. And I could say lots of words to try to convince you of it, but I'm not going to. It's just my experience and it's my truth, and so I'm sharing it with you in hopes that you find some value in it. The question that I posed to myself, and I'm posing to you, not for us to answer right now. If we can answer it right now, we might hit bonus time and just all go home. But the question I wrote here is the pursuit of this arrowhead where our sense of completion lies, where our fulfillment, our wholeness lies? Now notice, and I'll fully admit this is not doctored in any way. I first wrote, is this arrowhead where the sense of completion lies? And then I remembered, as we've talked about in the past, that the value in goals is not so much in achieving goals, but in who we become as we pursue the goals. I think the same is true for vision. And I will admit to thinking that a vision was better than a goal, in that if I could just achieve my vision, which is just a bunch of goals, then my life would be freaking perfect and everything would be good. And guess what? I then achieved a vision and I went, well, this is a lot better than it used to be, but it's not perfect yet. So I'm gonna do what we call Vision 2.0, and I'm gonna up the ante and I'm gonna do more. Well, I got that one too, and I looked around. And I'm a slow learner, but I'm not that slow. So by like Vision 3 or 4, I was like, well, shit, we gotta change something in my brain if this vision thing is ever gonna complete me, right? And so what the change was is putting the pursuit into this question. So it's not in achieving the vision, but it's in pursuing the vision, right? And I'll go so far as to say, I gotta see what's next, that last piece, this is phase 8. 1 through 7, I think all of us can have the opportunity to achieve by our own accord. I think 1 through 7 are the phases of us pursuing our vision, and I believe phase 8 becomes available to us, to those of us who decide to subordinate our vision to a higher vision, whatever that is for you, right? For me, that's God. If you want to call it the universe, I think it's all the same thing, just different words. I've found that as I learn to surrender and stop trying to quote unquote save myself by achieving the goal, getting to the vision, and instead of, and I listen to God and I hear what He has for me, and I incorporate those things into my daily pursuits, this sense of completion becomes more and more robust in my life.